So you mentioned the opportunity, Rachel, of bringing, you identifying leaders that are particularly good in these sort of stress situations and crisis situations, and to seek them out and use their strengths. So if you go more broadly in terms of it, and then you look at the leadership, okay, so what are the qualities that you could learn as a leader, based on the concept that leadership has learned. Obviously, the more anti-fragile you are as a leader, and the more you're able to get your team to be anti-fragile. What are those things that leaders need to learn, to adapt to become, so that they can be anti-fragile leaders, if one can coin it in that way?
Absolutely. So for me, the first is to really improve your ability to frame intelligently during time. Because, how we experience things is really about how we frame them. So the mind, as we all know, is consistently hallucinating reality. The brain, neuroscientists, emphasize and re-emphasize that the brain is a projector. It is hallucinating reality and projecting it into the world. And so how you frame what you are experiencing makes a difference in terms of how you experience it, and also how your people experience it. And one of the most powerful ways for framing, and the Center for Creative Leadership talks about this in their model of RAPT, which is, by the way, not the opposite, but it's a placeholder term, I suppose, that you could use instead of VUCA, because we talk about VUCA a lot, volatile, uncertain, complex, ambiguous. But the Center for Creative Leadership came up with an acronym, RAPT, which stands for Rapid, Unpredictable, Paradoxical, and Tangled. And one of the things that they talk about when dealing with crisis moments is being able to use the power of metaphors. And when the mind is under pressure, it listens better to language that gives it a picture that it can hold onto and create meaning out of. And metaphors are very good for this. So, for example, if you imagine that President Donald Trump talks about COVID-19 as a war, that we're going through a war, and all of us are soldiers on the front line, especially nurses and doctors, fighting a common enemy. And you compare that, let's say, to Jacinda Ardern, who says, COVID-19 and the experience of it is a marathon. Now, I don't judge any of those two concepts. They're neither here nor there for me in terms of which is better or not. I think that they're both valid. But those metaphors each has a different impression on the brain. It creates a different impression on the brain, right? And so you as a leader need to be very very intentional about the metaphors that you're choosing to use during this time. Because metaphors, like I said, not only allow people to hear you better, but they also inspire action differently. And so, for example, if we keep using the term, we're going to survive this, we're going to survive this, people are going to go into very short-termism thinking and are going to be looking for what is the quickest and fastest way that we can just get through this moment. Whereas if you use, for example, the term thrive, I came across the metaphor of incubation, that this is an incubation period. You may then inspire in people a sense of deep work, of wanting to really understand what is happening here and how, in fact, we can make our business better because of it. So for me, framing is one. The second is this idea of reinvention. And here I'll steal from Frederick Laloux's Reinventing Organizations, which is a book I'm recommending that leaders read during this time. Frederick Laloux talks quite powerfully about the fact that if you think about your organization as a living, breathing system, you'll then accept that it has an evolutionary purpose, right? Which is beyond anything that it will experience externally. There's always an evolutionary reason for why your business exists. What is the deepest intention? What are the deepest values? And when you can use those as the space from which you can then reimagine or pivot your business to suit the times, then indeed you can actually thrive through this time, right? So it's about being awake to the fact that, living organisms have a capacity to adapt to an environment. And the quicker you, again, to the point of acceptance, are in relationship with that, the more the answers will start to come. Again, if the brain is in survival mode and in panic, it goes into what we call an amygdala hijack, and because of that, is unable to actually be in reasoning and be in compassion and be in problem solving. And so really it is about being in relationship with the idea that we are always reinventing ourselves and should always be doing so. But finally, I would say that anti-fragility in this moment is about cultivating courage, right? It's about understanding that the burden of leadership is about being able to stand in non-victimhood when things are happening. All of us are co-creating this moment, every single one of us, based on the way we interpret the situation, based on the kinds of conversations we're having, based on the kinds of engagements that we are inviting into the space, based on the kinds of experimentations we allow ourselves to have. And so to remember continually that choice is available to you, even in this time, even in this moment when it feels like there's choicelessness, there is choice available to us. And one of the most powerful, courageous things, I think, which will probably seem counterintuitive, is really investing in community, is really starting to question, what is my incubator? You know, what does my incubator look like? What are the support and supply systems that are around me that I might not be leveraging at this point? Because the survival and indeed the thriving through this moment will be about the quality of your community. Resilience and anti-fragility is about the quality of the system. And so I think that this moment is also powerful because it's reminding us once again to be humane. You know, I've always struggled a little bit with the concept of competition because I think it brings out the most primitive aspect of us, when really the most advanced aspect of us as human beings is our ability to collaborate. And so I think that the biggest courage at this point will be to go beyond yourself as a business and go beyond yourself as a person and say, where is my community, right? Where can I be in relationship with my community so that I can thrive and learn and grow through what is happening at this point in time.
Sure. Yeah, there's a